What's going on, guys? I just got done watching the new Eyes of Wakanda for Black Panther Eyes of Wakanda, so I'm gonna give you guys like a little review on that here. It came out yesterday, so it's a 4-episode mini series. They're about 22 minutes long each. So I'm gonna talk about the last episode, and then I will talk about the other episodes a little bit too, but not as much. And then if you want, you guys can decide if you'd like to watch the other thing. That way we can dig into some stuff on the last episode with some spoilers, but then there's plenty for left to be unspoiled. So first off, I want to say I actually really enjoyed this one. This was a pretty enjoyable TV show. I'd say the first episode, in my opinion, is probably its weakest. I don't like that one as much. The fourth episode also was a bit weaker to me until a plot twist that happens about halfway through it, and then that made it a lot more interesting for me, actually. Finding out why. So the way this kind of works, so if you'd seen Predator Killer of Killers, they kind of do a similar thing that they did there with like time. They go through like different time periods in Wakanda, and then the big twist at the end in the fourth episode like ties into to that one. But basically, you have 4 stories, and each story is centered around an artifact from Wakanda. And basically you have like Wakandans, either 1 or 2, going out, and they have to retrieve this artifact. And basically Wakanda is going out and they're retrieving artifacts throughout time, not like going in different times. It's these people, for that episode of that story, they live in that time. So they send them out and they get the artifact. In episode 3, I believe it was, which is my favorite, the one with the Iron Fist. It's like a dragon thing with a vibranium like tongue or something like that. But basically the reason they're going and getting them is because they believe that the outsiders, people who live outside Wakanda, like shouldn't be allowed to like have like vibranium and things like that. So they go on these missions to retrieve the artifacts so they can get the vibranium, which I always kind of thought, I was like, why didn't they just leave the artifacts and then like get the vibranium? But maybe sometimes they're built in, I don't know. But so let's talk about episode 3 a little bit. Episode 3, this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailers, but it has Iron Fist. Now this is a female Iron Fist from the past. I really liked her character. Turns out that her and the guy from that, I forget the name of the exact character, he was a little forgettable. The female Iron Fist was actually like the best part of this episode for me. But she ends up, I guess they kind of like had a thing, and they kind of alluded to that in the beginning. And then episode 1, there's a group that does this in Wakanda. Is called the War Dogs. So episode 1 is really, it kind of just sets up the War Dogs. You get this girl who is a Dora Milaje, and then, or like an ex-Dora Milaje, one that like may have fucked up or something like that, got kind of kicked out of the group. And so basically she gets offered to go on this mission, this Black Ops mission, to retrieve the artifact, and she can be let back in the Dora Milaje. She does it, and basically she fights somebody who's known as the Lion. And basically he's somebody who, Wakandan, who believes that the people outside of Wakanda need to be ruled. But basically he has like Wakandan armor and stuff like that. And I thought they were going to do a little bit more with this. I thought there was going to be, he's kind of trying to build his like, I thought it was going to be more of like a Black Panther versus like the Lion type thing, but it really wasn't. And this dude wouldn't be able to compete with Black Panther. He doesn't have any like, he didn't have like an herb or something that gives him powers. He's just a guy with some technology in ancient times, unfortunately. Let's see, what else is there? So at the end of episode 1, you see that she completes her mission. She comes back, and instead of becoming a Dora Milaje, she now gets to be part of the War Dogs, and then we get episode 2. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be really cool. I was like, we're gonna do the War Dogs thing, and then it like switched times on us, and I was like, whoa, I was like, this is even better. So I really like this. Episode 4, let's get into episode 4 a little bit. So episode 4 is interesting. I don't want to spoil too much. It's my least favorite in the fact of like the time period it's set in, but it's like also my favorite in the fact that like halfway through it like gets really interesting, because there's she talks about this like relentless swarm that like came from the outer reaches of space, and I think it's the Annihilation Wave. It looks like Annihilus, the bugs of Annihilus. And so this would be our first ever viewing of, if this is tied to the overall MCU, of seeing Annihilus's Annihilation Wave. And it's just really cool. So, because I really like that story, and it's a good story in Marvel Comics. But, you know, I don't want to spoil too much there and what happens and everything. But overall, I think this was a really good TV show. I don't think there's going to be a season 2. I'd like it. There'll be no season 2. I think just one season, like a one-off thing. I thought this was great. Overall, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I think this was really good. I think you should check it out. And yeah, stay tuned. We're going to have, I believe it's already out. I'll have to check. It could be next week, but Peacemaker season 2. So we're going to be reviewing that here on this channel. So look forward to that. Yeah, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a nice one, everyone.